Alright you guys, this episode of Paradigm Profiles is called Chain of Command. Several of you have been asking questions about how a chain of command is delegated, how it's established, how the process is initiated, and where, location-wise, these members are delegated from. Other questions some of you asked pertain to the category system and what level or what each tier represented. These are some good questions that I can elaborate on, so rather than to include these questions in my next Q&A, I just decided to dedicate a whole profile on these topics. First, let's cover the category system. So the NF utilizes a category system to grade its members by experience, grade, and status. You guys have heard me talk extensively about the NF and how it's structured. Over time, you've heard me talk about the history, the philosophy, the leadership, how new prospective members are recruited, and some of the overall objectives the organization is in pursuit of. One of the things that the NF takes a lot of pride in is its ability to organize and operate under a paramilitary structure. This system was adopted in the 70s and has been credited to Robert Black Bob Vasquez. Vasquez acted as one of the main catalysts who led the push to have Robert Babo Sosa and his top lieutenants impeached for misappropriation of organization monies and for what was described as committing flagrant acts of cowardice. The misappropriation of organization monies stemmed from tens of thousands of dollars that Babo and his leadership could not account for when the books were scrutinized. Because Babo was the acting Supreme General, he had unfettered access to this money and it was often expended for personal use. When it comes to the management and the safeguarding of organizational money, history has taught us valuable lessons that have been continuously overlooked and neglected. The unfortunate truth is that whenever one individual is given unfettered access and control over large sums of money, there's always going to be an overwhelming concern for corruption and misappropriation. Despite the fact that history has continued to repeat itself, nothing was ever done to rectify this problem or revise the system that has long been broken. Let's be honest, without the proper checks and balances in place, most of us would also double dip and use this money for our own expenses too. Put yourself in this position. You have complete access to hundreds of thousands of dollars that was generated from the street operations. During the course of time, maybe you have a family member that needs help paying their rent. Maybe you have a kid that needs money to help put them through college. Or maybe you have a mother that is in the process of going through foreclosure. Can you honestly say that you wouldn't dip into that money to help one of your loved ones who's in need of help? Especially if it might go unnoticed? I believe that if most of us are honest about this, then you'll admit that this would have also been a problem for you too. As it is, money already invites various forms of calamity, but this is intensified whenever you're dealing with a criminal organization and criminal aptitude. The accusations of cowardice stemmed from directives that Babo had personally implemented during the time he was under indictment for a string of murders. The murders were directly associated with the group street regiments that had occurred in the county of Fresno, California. Because Babo was being accused of ordering these murders, he felt like any continued acts of violence that might have been committed during the trial would have had an adverse effect on the case. Therefore, he called for a temporary cease in the violence, which was interpreted by the younger C's as an act of cowardice. They felt like this was just an incidental drawback that was part of the game and that Babo and his co-defendants should have just embraced it. So, after Babo was impeached, Black Bob reorganized the group under a paramilitary structure, appointing generals, captains, lieutenants, and foot soldiers. Thus, the group transformed itself into an organization and began operating like one. This provided a pecking order where members were delegated certain positions based on their individual abilities. But the organization learned a valuable lesson following Babo's tenure. It learned that delegating that much power and control to one individual member like they did with Babo only opened up the door for corruption and created all kinds of other internal problems. So now instead of Babo individually making all the critical decisions over the organization's direction, everything would now be done by a collective consensus. This resulted in the creation of the Mesa, or the table, a council of members who would hold votes on all the major issues. So the category system is composed of 3 levels, or 3 tiers that are separated into categories. Let's start first by going over category 1. This is the lowest level of the 3 categories and is analogous to the entry level, or a level that's sometimes been referred to as the indoctrination level. All new members start out on this level, and as a Cat 1, these members have no authority or status over any other members in the organization. As a Category 1 member, their whole objective is to absorb and sponge up as much education and as much NF history as they possibly can. This includes studying the NF Constitution with both written and verbal breakdowns. And this is studied vigorously and methodically, in what's often been referred to as in a religious type of fashion. In fact, for this very reason, the NF Constitution is often referred to as the Bible. All members are required to memorize the entire Constitution verbatim. There is no established time frame set for elevation to the next category. You can elevate in 5 years, 10 years, or 2 months. It's all dependent on how fast you develop and however long it takes you to progress to a Cat 2, the next formal level. Members who have suffered a relegation in status as a result of being stripped or disciplined are also dropped down to Cat 1 status. Be it Cat 3 or Cat 2, if they are demoted and stripped of all authority, Cat 1 is where these members are demoted back to. As far as the new prospective members, once it has been established that you're ready to be elevated to a Cat 2, the only one who has the authority to make that transition in status is a Cat 3. Lastly, all Cs are obviously honored and respected, but within the organization, Cat 1 members are technically still unproven and have yet to prove their loyalty. Within the organization, they just have not in essence completely consummated their oath. Category 2 members have demonstrated that they know the true and correct interpretation of the NF Constitution, and they have also become seasoned enough to act as teachers or maestros for the Cat 1s. Cat 2s have also demonstrated some level of loyalty within the organization, and it is these members who are usually being groomed up and indoctrinated to become regimental commanders. These members have also demonstrated that they have developed leadership abilities. A lot of the old school NF members that have been around since the 70s will flat out tell you that although they respect and embrace Cat 1 and Cat 2 NF members, a lot of them just won't consider these Cs bona fide, fully sanctioned carnales based on the simple fact that they have not committed an ultimate sacrifice, a kill for the organization. Category 3 members are part of the management level. This is the spit and shine of the organization. These members have proven their commitment and have proven unwavering loyalty. They have been in situations where they have faced adversity on the highest level, and yet they have honorably fulfilled their expectations. All that matters to the Cat 3 Guerrero is that he honors his commitment in every facet he has ever faced, and above all else, he honors his integrity and commitment to the O. These Cs have become leaders in every sense of the word. They lead by example. They never waver when it comes to sacrifice, and they have honored each of the 3 concepts of blood in the NF's insignia. For those of you that don't know, the NF insignia is a Mexican style hat called a sombrero. It has a dagger piercing through it, and there's a drawstring that's supposed to characterize an unbreakable chain of unified NF members. There's also 3 drops of blood dripping from the tip of the dagger. Each drop represents its own individual meaning or concept, and this is the concept that all Cat 3s have honored. The first drop of blood represents all those members who have spilled their own blood, honorably protecting and defending the organization. Blood in. The second drop of blood represents all those members who have either been expelled, have dishonorably walked away, or who have become cowards, traitors, or deserters of the organization. Blood out. And finally, the third drop of blood represents all those who are opposed to the NF philosophy, the opposition, the adversaries, and the NF sworn enemigas. So, the blood in, blood out philosophy is not a myth. It's an actual way of life. Now, another misconception that I want to clarify and dispel relates to authority positions that are delegated and how this relates to status. There seems to be a misconception about ranking members who have been delegated positions having more status than that of a Cat 3. Make no mistake about it, just because a member has been delegated a position such as a general, a member of the IC Inner Council, or GC General Council, this does not mean he has more status than any other Cat 3 Familiano. All this means is that he has been delegated more responsibility. That's it. There is no higher status than that of a Cat 3, period. Those that truly don't understand the rank and file and how the category system is structured seem to think that because a specific Familiano has been voted in to fulfill a position such as a general or a member of the two counseling bodies, assume that these members are theoretically higher in status or that they are some type of supreme authoritative figure. This is not true. All Cat 3s are equal in status. The only separation in power is that one has been given an added responsibility. Another misconception that has often been assumed is that the OGB, organizational governing body, no longer exists since the leadership structure was revamped. The fact is that the OGB will always exist as long as there continues to be a pool of Category 3 Familianos. The title is no longer utilized within the ranking structure per se. However, it still theoretically exists along with its vital components as that of a body that has powers to govern the organization. Within the leadership structure today, as it is currently set up, the three high offices along with the IC, the GC, and all the Cat 3 Familianos is what comprises the OGB as a whole. So in my opinion, here's why I believe the organization is still very vulnerable and susceptible to malfeasance and corruption. The money that is derived from the street operations is controlled, monitored, and managed by the GAO, General's Advocate's Office. In essence, he is the treasurer. This money is what ultimately makes up what is known as the organization's main bank. The bookkeeping of the main bank primarily falls to the responsibility of the GAO. However, the SRG, Street Regimental General, and the GOP, General of Prisons, all work together in some capacity for the sole purpose of siphoning this money into the main bank. So all three basically have their hands in the cookie jar. This is where the problem continues to lie. Why the powers that be can't see the indicator of future behavior from past behavior is beyond me. Unless you change your policies and protocols, history will only continue to repeat itself. As has been the case in the past, leadership at the apex or at the uppermost point of the top have over time developed condescending relationships and have often been in cahoots when it comes to money misappropriation. The problem exists because this money is still in the hands of just a select few individuals at the top of the organization. There's no one above this threshold that they have to be accountable to. It's like the wolf guarding the chickens. In closing, it would probably serve a fundamental purpose to revise and clearly spell out contingencies to avoid another dilemma like the one that led to the rift between the state and federal branches. The NF Constitution already has contingents in place for when individual members of the leadership become incommunicado or are no longer in a position to effectively oversee the organization. But this needs to be extensively clarified so that there is no gray area. Although it already spells out clear protocols for situations like this when one understands NF law in the totality of the scope and breadth, there still seems to be room for misinterpretation or outright misconception. This is obvious based on the points of contention that those self-appointed leaders in the state use to justify hijacking and kidnapping the California branch of the Nuestra Familia. I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode of Paradigm Profiles. There's multiple other profiles and a Q&A that I'm trying to get out by the end of this week, so stay tapped in and be looking out for it to drop. Also, we're going to be dropping more chapters and more episodes of both Inner Demons and War Stories, so be watching for those as well. And finally, we're going to make this raffle one of the biggest and best Christmas bashes we've ever put on. Aside from raffling off 2 pairs of Jordans, we're also going to raffle off multiple pairs of other shoes, shirts, SAOs, books, and other items. You're not going to want to miss this one. One $3 ticket is going to qualify you and make you eligible for hundreds of dollars worth of prizes. Good luck. With that said, we want to thank all of you for your continued support, your positive feedback, and just for helping us get to where we are. We value and appreciate our viewers, as we realize that without you guys and without your support, we would cease to exist.